we were not sure when one big nation announced that it's not advancing with Paris Agreement, whether Paris Agreement will survive. In this COP, we should prove the world that whatever happens, we will not let Paris Agreement die. We will make it alive, and we will show our support and commitment to the nations.
ICLEI is the focal point of the LGMA constituency. The LGMA standing for local governments and municipal authorities. And this is one of the 9 constituencies officially recognized by the UNFCCC process. It is my job, and also the job of ICLEI as a focal point of the LGMA constituency, to take the policy asks from the local and regional governments to the international arena of the UNFCCC process, and also to take back what is decided here at the international level back to the local and regional levels for a faster and more efficient implementation of the Paris Agreement.
We know NDCs are not enough, NDCs are not implemented well, and we told concretely that if they want to deliver their national commitments, they have to integrate it. They have to integrate their climate actions to sustainable urban development, integrated, sustainable urban and territorial development. If they bring this way of work into their national commitments, we can help them to deliver. If they want to implement and reach to the goals in the national determined contributions, they have to bring on board our potential and our capacities. Welcome and dialogue with the national leaders.
The Paris Agreement gave particular recognition to the importance of the engagements of government at all levels in order to implement the Paris Agreement. So this multi-level governance is one of the cornerstones of the messaging that I've been delivering. And second of all, to go more into details of the Paris Agreement.
The sustainable integrated urban and territorial development. It is a development which is the new urban world is building upon. All nations are getting urbanized or making their cities better. If they connect the climate action to this urban development in a sustainable way, they can deliver most of their targets, or they can be sure what they have committed in their NDCs can be implemented in real terms.
How do we get there? Raise the ambition of the NDCs, and that actually comes from looking at all those local and regional governments that are actually driving the implementation of the Paris Agreement forward, so as to make sure this multi-level governance again can be well translated into the actual implementation process of the Paris Agreement at the local and regional level.
From 2007 Bali until Copenhagen and onwards, we were pushing for our recognition, which was to include our positions into the agreement text. That was our mission, and in Paris we were now asked to take much more active role. So in this COP in Bonn, we wanted to synthesize and design it in such a way that all these engagements are much more visible, much more result-oriented, and our, especially leaders, when they come into this process, they receive the appropriate level of, let's say, welcome and dialogue with the national leaders. Many cities in the world, many regions in the world have their climate action plans ready. They have ambitious commitments, 100% renewables or carbon neutrality. If the new cycle of NDCs can take this potential and a commitment into the national policies, we are confident that the national determined contributions ambition level can be raised higher.
ICLEI made quite a significant contribution to COP23, in the sense that one of the outcomes of the Paris Agreement was to give to institutionalize this action track. So we now call it the Marrakesh Partnership for Global Climate Action. And that very much is a key pillar to support the Paris Agreement within the UNFCCC process. And this year what ICLEI did was to organize what's called a summit of local and regional leaders. That was part of the Marrakesh Partnership program this year, and then we brought together all voices from local and regional leaders, and we also brought together the parties and the UNFCCC senior officers in order to really talk about how we support the Paris Agreement from the local and regional levels, and how the national governments, parties can also support this voluntary effort from the local and regional government side.
This is the first time when cities and regions collectively showed their diversity. So it was not just a summit of mayors, it was not a summit of the usual traditionally very active champions of climate action. We had more than 300 leaders all around the world. For example, for the first time we had a delegation of island mayors from Pacific and Caribbean. They were acting as a community, as a group. We also had a number of, around half of those participants had never attended COP before. So we also have brought new cities, new regions, new leaders. We can manage to expand this climate action and the dialogue to new people who have never worked on climate. That will help us to secure that we reach to the goals of Paris Agreement. One of the key outcomes of the climate summit of local and regional leaders was the Bonn Fiji commitment. It clarifies what we are doing as our homework, but we also clarify what we ask from the nations and how they can increase their work with us. By 2020, we have to see concrete progress. We have to see concrete actions that are committed by local governments also, but national governments, that they have to be tracked. They have to be verified. They have to be showing that their commitments are implemented. This is the first thing. And for this, our reporting mechanisms, our transparency mechanisms, our capacity building efforts should accelerate. We have to work with our members that they deliver what they have promised to. The second thing is that in 2020, they will officially present their next NDCs. And in these NDCs, we should be hoping and they should be working to make sure that these NDCs have a better role defined for urban development and the role of local and regional governments in their countries.
One of the slogans of this COP is to implement the Paris Agreement together, faster, further. And I think that really very much symbolizes the action and dynamism that we have been feeling at this COP. Going into next year, I think building upon this basis, I think I'm pretty much optimistic.